Hi everybody, welcome to Module 4. Gosh, can you believe that? We've gone quite a ways here, so we're at Module 4 already. With Module 3, we looked at creating, maintaining, and strengthening relationships through special events. I thought everyone did really well on the assignments for Module 3, so congratulations. Our focus now, though, is going to turn towards writing grant proposals as a means of raising funds from government or foundation sources. I know at the beginning of this class, many of you expressed an interest in learning more about grants and the whole process. So this is where most of my experience lies, and I'll give you a lot of my resources as we move through the next few weeks. So never hesitate to ask me for help or advice on any of this. Okay, so a few important things to know about grants before we get started. Number one, it's important to know which of your organization's needs are appropriate for grant funding. For instance, grants aren't necessarily sought after for salaries. Sometimes they are, but it's very rare. So you can waste a lot of your time chasing your tail like this if you don't know exactly what your needs are and what funding is available for those. Number two, when you write a grant proposal, it's vital to follow the directions of the funder. I cannot stress that enough. I'll give you an example. For many years, I was a grant reviewer for the Indiana Department of Education. We would get grant proposals in and spend a weekend at a hotel doing nothing but reading these things. The directions were to type it in a certain font and a certain size of the font and a few other things on certain paper, and I think probably 1 out of every 10 that I read did not follow the directions. In other words, it would have some weird paper, some impossible to read font, and just totally ignore all the instructions that we had. We wouldn't even read them. Right into the trash can they went. So it's very important to follow directions of the grant funders. Read very, very carefully what they ask you to do, and then do that. Don't do anything else trying to impress them, because you'll end up in the trash can. Okay, that's really important to know. And I even asked many of the program officers that were involved in this class, and just through my own experience, what's the number one thing that you would tell people in writing grants? And they would say, follow directions. Okay. Number three, it's rare that your grant will be funded 100%. In other words, or I should say your project, it's rare for your project to be funded by a grant 100%. Funders will expect that some other percentage of your project will be funded by yourselves or by a donor or some other source of funding. So line those up before you apply for a grant, because the grant funder will want to know who's in this with me. Okay? So that's very important. And then number four, if the grant funder gives you a name and a phone number or an email address of someone typically called the program officer, call them. I will beat you out of a grant if you don't call them, because I am on the phone with them all the time. And even if I know the answer to questions that I'm asking them, I still ask them, because I want them to go, oh, it's that crazy dentist guy calling me again. And I've called them, I've talked about my project, I've asked if it's relevant to their philanthropic needs. I'm asking questions all the time, but they know exactly who I am when my project is submitted. If you just send a project in cold and you haven't called that person, I guarantee you that I'm going to beat you out of that grant. So if there's a number of a person to call them. Sometimes there isn't one. Sometimes they'll say, we don't want you to call. That's okay. But if there is, if you're not calling them, I certainly am. So I'm gonna get you if that's the way it's going to be. Okay, so in this module, we're going to look at two different sources of grants: government grants and foundation grants. With government grants, as vistas, you're going to want to pay attention to these, because a lot of these government grants are to keep your lights on, to pay for overhead and that sort of thing. So you're going to want to know a lot about government grants for your organization. Government dollars will be for specific purposes, and you cannot deviate from that. It's going to be important that you read the directions of government-funded grants and follow those to the letter, or quite frankly, you could end up in jail if you don't. So it's that important to adhere to. Government grants can be administratively challenging with lots of requirements for accounting, reporting, and that sort of thing. So know this and be prepared for it. Take advantage of the many resources there are out there for federal grants in terms of video training, online training, that sort of thing. And by all means, I guarantee you that there will be a name and a phone number attached to every government grant. You need to be calling those people and asking questions and building a relationship. The other one is foundation grants, and these are typically three different types. Either family foundations where there's a lot of wealth and they want to give some of that away. Corporate foundations, large corporations, big companies have money that they set aside for philanthropic projects, or community foundations, which are typically pooled funds from people in a community to help do certain things. Make sure that these foundations support projects in your area because many are restrictive in terms of locally or regional projects that they fund. Make sure that your interests line up with theirs. And again, look for people to email or to call so you can check on that. Call them up and say, you know, this is what we're thinking of doing. Are you interested? Does this fit your philanthropic needs? Typically, you have to write a solicitation letter first, and that's part of your assignment in this module. And then following that, a proposal. Sometimes the letter gets you money, but typically you have to write a proposal. But either way, make sure you follow the directions of the funder. It's very, very important. And then sometimes you'll even be asked to go in and make a presentation. If you get to that point, you're very lucky, and you should just be yourself when you go in and just tell them what you want to do. There's really no set way to do that. Just be yourself and try to get their funding. So what are we going to do? Well, first we're going to learn about the grant process. So ask me questions if you're not sure. You all know how to get a hold of me by now. We're going to research grant opportunities and learn how not to waste our valuable time. There's hundreds of thousands of grant funders out there, and we're going to make sure we hit the right ones. We're going to write a letter of inquiry, which is a common first step, so be prepared for that. So I will provide you with some sample grant proposals I've written as well as some articles I've written, so you'll get those as well. But as always, ask me questions or contact me with any concerns. You're almost to the finish line, folks, so keep up the good work. Thank you very much.